Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to Cup of Cheer on this, the third week of Advent. So, I wanted to talk to you today about a little realization that I had when I was doing my own Advent readings. So, historically, there's been an understanding that there was something that some refer to as a 400-year gap, 400 years of silence between the Old Testament writings and the New Testament writings, where God had not spoken to any of his people directly since the end of the Old Testament writings until Christ came. Historically, that's been understood to be roughly 400 years. And because it's a bit rough, that could mean a little bit less or a little to quite a bit more. Why is this important? Well, because it's really fascinating to me. I've always heard the 400 years, roughly 400-year gap, and thought, wow, that is such a long period of time. I don't know how they got by with that silence. I mean, they still had the writings from the Old Testament, and they still had all of the history and the traditions to get through, but that silence, that sounds unbearable. And without the Holy Spirit, there was also an extra amount of silence and feeling of distance, I'm sure, between the Old Testament and when Christ came. And it dawned on me the other day that we are living in the year 2023, as I speak right now anyways. I know in a couple weeks it will be 2024, but right now it's the year 2023. And that seems like a long time. To me, the thought of Christ being over 2,000 years ago seems like ages and eons. Like, I can't even fathom how long that period of time is. And then it dawned on me that my grandfather died in 2020. And next year, if he was still alive, he would be 100 years old. And I got to see him and talk with him and hear about his history face to face, and it didn't feel like a big gap. And then it dawned on me, while I was thinking about this 400-year silence, this 400-year gap, this 400 years between Old Testament and New Testament, that's only 4 times the amount of time between now and when my grandfather was born, and it didn't seem that long ago. I read a lot about World War II growing up and World War I, and a lot of things that happened at the beginning of the turn of the century back between 18 and 1900, and that didn't seem like ancient history. It just seemed like recent history. And then I multiply that times 4, and it still doesn't feel that far apart. And then it really hit me. If you multiply that times a little more than 4, that's how long ago Christ came, roughly. I don't know if you're still with me on this, but that blew my brain. Like, seriously, to think that Christ isn't actually all that far removed from us. It feels like it as time passes, but honestly, 2,000 years ago wasn't that far ago. Just let that marinate for a minute. Like, honestly, think about, reading about World War I, or I don't know, if you're watching this and you're a teenager, I'm not sure what the exact equivalent would be for you because I'm in my late 30s, and so for me, that would be like World War I, World War II, not that long ago. And then I just did a little multiplication, and it just blew my mind that it doesn't feel that far away, far removed anymore, that Christ was actually here. Maybe you've always thought of Christ being here like so long ago, like I do, like I did. And maybe sometimes it still feels like he's really distant. But Christ, one of his names is Emmanuel, God with us. And when my mom was in the hospital last year, that name really hit me hard in a beautiful way. That even when everything seems so distant and so alone, Christ is with us. God is with us. I just wanted to share this with you as hopefully an encouragement, and also so that I don't forget this. That as far away as that might have felt, and as long ago as it feels oftentimes to say 2,000 years ago, it's not that far ago. And if 2,000 years feels like a really long time, just take that by a quarter, and that was the time of silence. And that's huge too. Sorry, my brain is still wrapping around this realization, and it's kind of huge. But I hope in some way this encourages you and makes you stop and think about what that distance of time means for you. From me and mine to you and yours, thank you for watching so far, and I pray that you have a very Merry Christmas and a cup of good cheer. Bye.